Greetings, fellow Emblemites. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
7 years ago, we set out to celebrate the films of Steven Spielberg by providing commentary on his works he never did. After all, he's done so much for us, it's the least we could do for him. This year, the journey comes to its inevitable end. After the personal story of the Fablemans, we'll be transitioning from commentaries to retrospectives for the stories that remain. Why? Because it takes an archaeological dig to access some of these gems, and we got a memo. So, for the last time, let's explore Spielberg's past in 8mm. Go on a road trip with a captive audience before the scary truck gets us, or everything blows up in a comedic fashion. And while we're at it, let's kick the can around a little on Spielberg Month. Do Alrighty, Dragon. It has all come back around full circle. We did Duel, which was awesome. We did Sugarland Express now, Dragon. And I gotta tell you, the last 20 minutes of this movie, I think, are awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But, man, this is really this is a very slow movie, Dragon. The pacing of this movie was... The last 20 minutes is burned, but man, I'm not even saying that the rest of the movie's bad by any stretch. We certainly get some good character moments here and there, but this is a very slow movie.
And what was your first clue? All the cars just in a very slow speed chase?
Actually, yes, that was my first clue. Literally that shot was like, oh, okay, this is not the movie I was expecting it to be. All right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's interesting. Like, I think it's a very interesting kind of like approach to a police chase movie is essentially like, the standoff where it's like all the cars are trailing them, but they can't really do anything because of the hostage. Like, don't get me wrong. That does make for a good setup for sure. And, Dre, I'm just saying, like, I don't know. There's just something about the pace of this movie. Again, up until that last 20 minutes, which is fantastic. Genuinely gold Spielberg. I love the last line of this movie. There's some real gold in here. But I don't know, man. This is this certainly is not on the same level as Duel. I will say, Dragon, I have done my personal Spielberg rankings, and Duel is in the top 10. This is not. I'll say that much. But I did enjoy it, Dragon. This is a very interesting kind of like in between where Duel was very much that sort of like lean, mean TV movie. Obviously, Jaws is going to be very much the, redefining the blockbuster for the modern age. This is just kind of like a weird little like, yeah, it's a nice little, casual drama with some action elements. I don't know. It's very low key for Spielberg, but at the same time, it does have a lot of the Spielberg hallmarks, especially Dragon. It's got a lot of daddy issues and mommy issues.
Yeah.
So it is very casual Spielberg. Richard's Victims. That's a good way to put it. Richard's Victims says, "I know Duel is his first big movie, but this is like his second or third." This is I would count this as his first theatrical film. Like, Duel is a TV movie. Duel is fantastic.
Yeah, Duel, again, remember, it's a TV movie, but it then got kind of a theatrical release, but still is made as a TV movie.
Mm-hmm. But I would count this as like the first, and it is the first fully theatrical movie that he did. So.
That is true, yes.
All right, so Dragon, I'm actually very curious what your thoughts on this are.
So yes, obviously there was a lot of hype going into this one because every time he's like, "Oh, Spielberg, what was the theatrical debut? Oh, it was Sugarland Express," and we were looking forward to seeing. Oh man, I wonder how Sugarland Express is. Yeah, so again, the most I've really ever seen of Sugarland Express is what we saw in that Spielberg documentary, which again was like the cool mirror shot. That's all we really got. It's like here's the cool mirror shot. It's kind of it's kind of an evolution of the Amblin short. Yeah, so so there's a lot of hype going into the unknown debut of Spielberg because we all were very hyped for Duel, which was the real debut of Spielberg.
And that, man, that I still want to reiterate, that lived up to my
Yeah,
expectations and then some. That was such a treat.
we've been hyped for that for a long while.
We have.
So ultimately, I think this movie is good, but not amazing a debut as Duel by a long
Yeah.
shot. And you know what doesn't help? Let me tell you what doesn't help.
Okay.
Okay, so it doesn't help that this is like technically the third highway and or car chase film that he's done in a row. Think
That's
about it.
true. That's true. Yeah,
You got Amblin,
he could have got typecast into that.
because Amblin, you got the hitchhiking short.
Uh-huh.
You know, you got Duel, which is kind of like the inventive car chase movie to a degree, which is going all across all sorts of highways and everything.
Very
And
much
now
like personifying the monster truck.
oh yeah. And then we have like the full on highway movie, which is like, yeah, it's a combination of the two. It's highways.
It really is, but like very, I don't know.
It's one hitchhike and it's you have two hitchhikes and then it's nothing but highways.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at a very slow rate. Sorry, very slow
Do you think
pace.
it did pick up in that last 20 minutes though,
Oh,
like I
absolutely,
did?
yeah. No, it
Yeah,
did,
okay.
yeah. So anyway, we'll get there when we get there.
Uh-huh.
So it's interesting though when you look back on this. This is what really surprised me about the movie though. It's interesting seeing Spielberg his debut film, or at least his official debut, however you want to categorize it. His debut film here was a true story. It was kind of a quasi biopic to a degree. You know, it was
Mhm.
based on a true story. So yeah, I had no idea that was what his first thing was going to be. I was really surprised to find out like this all really happened.
Richard's Victim says it's wild to think that his next movie after this is freaking Jaws.
I got some
Yeah,
background.
1 year later. That's crazy.
Get some background how that happens, but we'll get there. Anyway, so last thing is that the movie does have Spielberg signatures, and I think that the best thing this movie has going for it that I really liked was I love the humanity that's shining through as we kind of build to the dread of the ending. I just love that we're building to this dread, and you're seeing like in that 20 minutes especially, you're kind of seeing that humanity kind of bleed through. Like, oh boy, I'm rooting for these crazy people, and then we kind of go Bonnie and Clyde with it.
Very Bonnie and Clyde for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, only half as fatal.
But
Yeah.
again, Dragon, I want to reiterate, and I can't wait to break it down. I love that ending. I love that final line.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
one other note, Dragon. I think as far as like comparisons to first movies, I think the best comparison I can make, and I'm trying to look the name of this movie up, and I don't even fucking remember, but you know how M. Night Shyamalan's first movie is like a random like dramedy or something? I'm trying to look it up. It's Wide Awake, I think is the name of it. Like this very much reminds me of a Wide Awake, where it's like, like Shyamalan, nothing about Wide Awake is going to call to mind what's going to come one film later with The Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
That's very much what this reminds me of. And I've heard Wide Awake's a good movie in its own right too, and I'm sure it is. But anyways, I just wanted to make that.
Apparently Walter White loves that movie.
Does he really? I forgot about that detail.
I'm completely making that up to you just for a gag. I'm just saying, like you
Okay.
love the movie because I'm awake. What?
Oh my god. Okay. For some reason, I thought Breaking Bad had a random deep cut M. Night Shyamalan reference that I missed.
No.
I mean, it did have the Ratatouille gag.
They did, but that's because the Albuquerque verse has quality taste in movies. Also, Mr. McGorham's Wonder Emporium.
Yes. God, Breaking Bad had really good pop culture pulls, didn't it?
It did. Well, remember, Better Call Saul even better, because Better Call Saul, the logic was Jimmy McGill and Kim Wexler have the same taste in movies as the writers, which is really good.
All right, anyways. I'm sure we could do a whole podcast just based on like the pop culture references in the Albuquerque verse, but we're not here for that. All right, so Dragon, background.
Okay, so there's not a whole lot of background, but what I can tell you is, as you can imagine, Duel got people talking. Again, it became a cult classic for a reason. So Richard Zanuck and David Brown. Richard Zanuck, he was a producer extraordinaire. He did a number of really good things. I mean, I think the most memorable things that he did were The Verdict, with Paul Newman, which again is kind of a little bit of a Saul Goodman basis, by the way, deep down.
Sure, sure.
And Road to Perdition, that great Tom Hanks movie.
Yeah, it definitely has Road to Perdition, of course, is very much like the elevated version of something like this.
Now, yeah, it is a road trip to a degree, so yeah.
Uh-huh.
Now the best correlation we do have between Richard Zanuck, and here's how it all kind of factors in, kids. Richard Zanuck is the producer on Jaws.
Sure.
So what happened here is, Zanuck saw what Spielberg did, and he said, I like this kid. Let's give him a real shot at a feature. So basically, it was like, if we want to give him like a true blue blockbuster, like what would become a Jaws, we got to break him in. We got to break him in, see if he can do a film before we offer him, let him kind of pick his own stuff,
Almost kind of like how the MCU does the whole, okay, let's pick the up-and-coming talent who has, one or two, buzzy indie movies to their name.
Sure, but starting them off small before we...
Sure.
Yeah. So they kind
of... Cop Car with, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the Spider-Man director's name, but
John
you know
Watts.
what I'm talking about.
John Watts.
Yes. Cop Car and John Watts, which you still need to watch, mister. Anyways, I'm sorry, go ahead.
You trying to mister me, mister? There's so many.
I know, there's so many I haven't seen. I know.
Anyway, so the sell. Okay, so the sell for the story to Spielberg was the way he describes it. He calls it an errand of mercy. That basically has he calls it an errand of mercy.
Okay.
That basically has like a doomed tragedy kind of payoff to it. Essentially, it's like a doomed destination, one could say. And basically, the big draw for him here was that it's kind of how this real life story happened, in which America turned these criminals into folk heroes. That was the big sell for him.
Sure.
It's basically playing with the perspectives, and I will give the movie credit. To me, one of the most interesting things about this thing is that all the hesitations I have with this movie, I then have to take a moment and kind of take a step back and then realize, well, he's not exactly saying, whether or not we're supposed to be rooting for these people, because again, we see both perspectives, and when you think about it, it's like, we're not really saying these are suddenly really good people, but they are, it's still, we're rooting for them, and even the characters in the movie are falling for their charms at times, So yes, that's essentially the vibe he was going for there. So. Let's see. So he's playing with perspectives was a big sell for him. Now Spielberg as a director, because it was the young buck, Steven Spielberg. He was a hard sell to the studio. So what got the movie greenlit?
What?
Goldie Hawn.
Of course, sure.
Zanuck recommended, look, talk to Goldie Hawn. You get her, I think you'll get a green light. So went to her, and basically she said yes, and there you go. There's your credibility, and they were off to the races. Well, the slow races, but they were off to the races all of a sudden. So they got the Panaflex camera. I believe this. I don't know if this is the first thing the Panaflex camera was used for. It was an early thing for. It was an early use of the Panaflex camera. And essentially, what the Panaflex camera does is it gets you all the good inside the car shots. So it's kind of breaking it in, Spielberg getting all his fancy angles. So they shot in Texas, all over Texas, mainly Sugarland. A little bit of Sugarland, and the majority is made up on the destinations to Sugarland, like San Antonio, which one of our buddies is from, and other locales in Texas. So let's see, Zanuck. This is a cute little story. Zanuck, he didn't want to overwhelm a young Steven Spielberg, so what he suggested was, okay, look, why don't you shoot the easy stuff on the first day? You shoot the inserts, the close-ups, keep it nice and loose. Keep it nice and simple.
Yeah.
Like the producer knows what he's doing. Like, okay, kid, here's what you should do. So I don't know if he himself showed up on the set that day or something, like he learned from the production coordinator or someone, like what happened. So apparently on day one, Spielberg shot the hardest shot in the movie.
Oh my god, that's great.
He did great with it. It went great. It was a good day on the shoot. Spielberg's like, I'm going to jump right into the deep end. Of the
movie. Right. Yeah.
And last thing of note to mention, let's jump right into it. First collaborations with John Williams,
Jazzy Johnny Williams. Oh yeah.
It's sad. Now we actually lost we lost the actual Jazzy John.
Did we?
Yeah, Jazzy John Romita.
Oh right. Oh, you're right. Yeah. That is.
Yep. George Lucas called him
John
Johnny
Williams.
Williams.
I mean, very harmonica-based score, which is a really interesting choice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's dive right in. I mean, I do think the inciting incident of the movie is very well paced. With the
Pre-release.
Right. I'm sorry. Yeah. I think it dives right into it with, we get a lot of character development between the two leads right off the bat. Sort of the bathroom scene in particular really showing off their dynamic. So, I think it like the movie doesn't stall in terms of getting them on the road.
I mean, yes and no, Tiki. Yes, you're right. It doesn't stall in terms of the pacing, but this is the thing where, again, I'm kind of of two minds about it with the whole perspective thing, because so the pre-release of Clovis, the Bill Atherton character, of course, Bill Atherton, by the way, for the kids out there, Walter Peck from Ghostbusters and the reporter from Die Hard 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so Clovis here, he only has 4 months, but their baby is in the foster care system, at the very least about to officially be put into the foster care system. So basically it's better they get there sooner rather than later. Now, the one logic issue I have is that it's a losing battle. And the problem I have is that I don't see these people as good parents. So I don't really buy the groundswell of support that they get. However, that said, that's the point, though. That's what's kind of like
Right.
it's the fact that Spielberg's saying again it's OJ before OJ. It's the whole thing of like the Bronco chase. This movie's the prototype for the Bronco chase. It's the whole thing of like he was framed and everything. All that sort of stuff where it's like the grants of people holding signs up in support without really knowing at all the context. You're like, these people probably not good parents. They probably shouldn't have the kid in the foster care.
No, that's absolutely true. I do think Goldie Hawn does a lot of the heavy lifting, though, as far as selling the premise, because I think her character does have a really good mix of kind of like desperation and also sort of sly charm and manipulation.
Because that's the thing. I mean, right from the get-go, she pretty much says, I don't care about you, but I care about the baby.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, she literally starts the movie like, I'm divorcing you, marriage is over, but you got to help me get the kid.
Exactly. So, I mean, in that spirit...
Which, by the way, Dragon, I love how the movie literally starts with a divorce.
I know, right?
Like that's literally the first plot point.
I was surprised we fired that fast. Now, the first, I mean, there's something Freudian. Freudian's not the right term. There's something kind of Freudian about here, where it's like we started right off. Here's your first theatrical movie. The other movies kind of worked in there once. Here's the even in the other movie, even in Duel, when it was given the theatrical runtime, what was the first scene we added in? The divorce, well, not the divorce scene, but it was the daddy issues scene.
Yeah, very true.
Hey, Spielberg.
I love it.
Hey, Steven, hey, over here. Here's what you get that directed feature. What's the first thing you're gonna do? I'm gonna have him on the precipice of divorce.
Oh man, yeah.
Anyway.
So let's talk about let's see, Clovis, as far as being a lead, I think he is a very sympathetic character as far as he was very much dragged into the situation and then obviously ends up being the one who pays the price.
Yeah, that's the thing, because if you look at it throughout the movie, so Clovis, he's got 4 months. He's got 4 months to get out. So this, and I like how we call this out early in the movies that everyone's like, "You're crazy! You only have 4 months." And that's the thing. So pre-release, I like the detail. Pre-release is like the most minimum security prison sentence you can.
It's essentially a halfway house, right? That's kind of how I read it.
I mean, that's essentially what it is. I don't know Here's the thing. Each state kind of might go about it a little differently. So it's in Texas, so I don't know if it's like a thing back then, it might work differently than it does now. Like now we have halfway houses. I'm sure they had halfway houses then, but maybe they just gave it a name like pre-release. It's the fact that, I mean, they're all wearing things and there are guards, but it seems like it's not under a strict armed guard. Like they're like a guy could sneak out very easily here, just wearing the clothes of kind of a non-prisoner.
That's all they had to do was just get the change of clothes.
So I like the simplicity, but again, the reason it's so low security is like, who's gonna? They only have 4 months left, and this place seems rather non-violent. Anyway, I imagine it's for like low offend, low ranking offenders. Anyway, so point being, Clovis, yeah, that's the thing. So it's kind of called out there. He only does it because he doesn't want to lose his conjugal visits, essentially, with her. It's the main reason he goes along. Is he will never do this again. He says, "Okay." So he leaves for this. Now it's just the fact that throughout you kind of get the sense where he's trying to point out to her, this is probably not going to go our way, and that poor guy pays the price.
Yeah, it's kind of just like that inevitable doomed tragedy of it that I feel like that probably really drew Spielberg to it as far as the actual true story goes.
Oh, for sure. And I imagine, like, Spielberg finding out that he was a father, I mean, also probably lit some.
Oh no!
No, seriously.
God.
I mean, look, it's gonna sound
like fatherly sacrificial suffering.
I mean, Dig, it's sad to say, but I have kind of a runner of a joke for Spielberg in this. I like to say this movie is depending on how you look at it, it's directed by Angsty Spielberg.
Oh my God!
So Angsty Spielberg is a young Steven Spielberg. He doesn't have the beard. He's wearing a black hat. Like the baseball hat, but it's black. It's just Spielberg gives us like the father dies at the end. Yes.
Oh my God.
It's just the fact that Spielberg's, the daddy issues are definitely on display.
The mother is very much like means well and is loving, but is also very unhinged.
She's blonde and happy, but
oh my God. Dragon, okay, you see, this is why The Fabelmans, for me, resonates so much more once we've seen these early movies. Like, holy shit, The Fabelmans is a fucking masterpiece, man. I'm just going to outright say it. Like, I love The Fabelmans now that we've gone back to these early movies.
So crazy, given the first time you saw it, how you reacted to it.
I mean, the first time I saw it, I liked it fine, right? I just, it didn't blow me away.
He was like, David Lynch, there's no truth in this art.
Oh, right. Yeah, the David Lynch thing I was a little thrown off by. I still think the David Lynch thing is a little on the nose, but whatever. It's fine.
Okay, so the point with we don't have a monkey, but we have a pig.
Oh my God.
And it's some pig.
I love just the whole, here, someone take this thing.
Anyway, but that's the whole Angsty Spielberg. This is the fact that this movie does end rather dark. If you look at you look at Spielberg's early work, the endings are a lot darker than the later work.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm not saying there aren't exceptions, but I mean, on the whole, AI they went with the optimistic ending.
Don't even get me fucking started.
My point is, it would have ended dark had they stuck with that ending, but they didn't.
I still think it ends dark, Dragon. I think it honestly. I could get into a whole psychological discussion. Griffin Newman. Griffin Newman actually had this exact conversation on his podcast where and I'm with him, where it's like I actually think AI, like once it goes on and he gets the false hope of the mother, and I think that ending's even darker. AI just bothers me on a fundamental level. I'm sorry.
The point being, the early Spielberg stuff, if you look at it, we end pretty dark all around. We're Amblin is like, she stole his stuff. Amblin stole his stuff. Duel is like, well, the man lost his car, and he's, man lost his car. He went through this whole ordeal. And we handled the graphic death of this personified truck.
And then this is very much the darkest of the endings, for sure.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, Jaws, at least we defeated the monster, but still, they ate Quentin, it blew up.
I don't know. I think Jaws, just the tone of that ending is a little jolly, just the John Williams.
What I'm saying, it's the fact that I'm saying we're starting to pivot with Jaws. I mean, Jaws
right. Yeah.
Maybe I should go a little lighter with the endings.
I mean, Close Encounters is very, that's a very nihilistic ending as well.
Yeah, that's the thing. So the Close Encounters, you're right about that, too. That's why I'm kind of saying Jaws is somewhat the turning point.
Yeah.
Close Encounters, you have that bit of Spielberg looking back on that film's where he's at now. Again, angsty Spielberg. I'm not saying he was full on angsty Spielberg then, but still, remnants of angsty Spielberg is, the father would leave the family and he wouldn't.
I know, right?
Where now it's like, oh, of course, no, he wouldn't leave his family behind.
All right, so you want to talk about Patrolman Maxwell Slide?
Yeah, so Patrolman Slide here. Initially, he was going to let him slide at the traffic stop.
But isn't that funny that that's the actual guy's name?
Well, not in real life. They gave him a name for the movie. They
Oh,
changed.
okay. I wasn't sure. I wasn't
They
sure.
did that.
I think it's a fun name because of that, because of what you just said.
Listen, it's a fun fact though. So it does seem oddly created though, but
Uh-huh.
the fact is though they changed the names of the real people in the movie. However, one of the real people that survived is actually in the movie. The the actual patrolman. He's the deputy in this.
Okay.
The real life
That's cool.
patrolman who was taken hostage. He gets to play the little thankless role of
Uh-huh.
the sheriff's deputy.
Uh-huh.
I forget if he's in the courtroom scene, like getting him or not. I forget if that's him, but he's yeah. So he has a brief role in the movie. Okay, so yes, but the patrolman here. So who's gonna let him slide? Yeah. So he's it's kind of interesting to see Spielberg, but with this end, Spielberg's got a thing for old couples.
Yeah.
Maybe early stuff because we have like this really bizarre. I was still thrown off by the old couple. Like, man, this is it's a little strange, right? We have I think they're called
At
the
first,
Nazis.
I thought they were going to be the hostages, and that threw me off.
Me too. Yeah, I was initially thinking, okay, well, I guess they're gonna take the old people or carjack.
I was like, okay, it's going to be kind of like they're going to have to fabricate a story of why they're friends with this guy, and I don't know.
Yeah. So the fact is, the knockers, I think, is what their name is. They drive so slow, they attract the attention of the patrolman who has to pull them over. Say, look, sir, you're driving really dangerously here. It's like 25 miles per hour, like when it's supposed to be a lot faster than that. So anyway, so we have this. So again, it's the fact that this couple, they're so dumb. Had they waited, they would have been fine. But they just had to panic and they drove, and then we had this really impressive crash. Another Spielberg runner, apparently, thanks to the Fablemans we now know. Spielberg loves a crash.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, loves crashes. This was a really well shot crash, though.
Yeah, all this stuff at the beginning, like I said, is really well paced. I feel like it's only like the second act, I feel, is where the pacing gets really drawn out.
There's one sequence in this movie I think really drags it to a grinding halt for me, but we'll get there.
Okay.
But yes, we have the crash, and but here's the thing: I love with the crash. It's a great opportunity for them to get the drop on the patrolman here. And there's just a series of bad decisions, which we see all the time. Which again, this movie, I think this came out 2 years after this movie, but it was Sidney Lumet, Dog Day Afternoon. It's a similar premise in terms of like we had a simple thing that was a simple plan was supposed to happen. It's a bank robbery. No one's getting hurt. These guys actually knew what they were doing, and then it all goes to heck. Bad decisions are made, and it's not good. So, but yeah, so it's kind of like one of those situations where it kind of spirals out of control, and then they become a trio. And I love this trio.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a good dynamic.
Yeah, and the fact that we have the patrolman trying to de-escalate the situation, but it's a no-go, and it becomes a hostage situation on wheels.
And then I really like how, once he finds out that the guy's got 4 months until release, it's like, well, what are you doing? You're throwing everything away. Come on now. But I like how that information coming to light is also sort of what gets him a little bit more on their side as far as just how desperate they are and how they're just kind of like stupid kids at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. So I mean, one of the impressive conceits of the movie is the fact that we, it's kind of speed-like in a sense in which we're doing like the hostage negotiator story, only it's on wheels. It's almost like the terrible like spin-off of Yu-Gi-Oh, like DX or 5D or whatever they called it. It's the fact that it's like it's the version of Yu-Gi-Oh where they're playing cards on motorcycles at high speeds. Like, who thought this was a good idea?
Right.
So apparently they love Sugarland Express in terms of like, we have to have all the action happen during because like they're having conversations while on the road in the cars and everything. We're having like we have this scene in the movie where like we have like newscasters trying to interview them at high speeds.
I think that is probably like the most broadly like slapstick comic moment in the movie, and I'm not sure how I feel about it.
Yeah, well, there's something really ironic about that scene, but we'll get there. But yeah, it is.
It kind of reminds me of the TMZ guy in Nope. Another thing that kind of feels out of place.
Right. So it's impressively shot. You have to imagine it's like a hard scene to coordinate because you got to drive them both at high speeds. Spielberg does not believe in like the fabricated projection car. He does not believe like let's cut the car in half and let's project some behind it. Like, no,
Right,
they got to
right.
be in the car. All right, so Captain Tanner.
Yeah, I like this dynamic. I feel like these four kind of form the quadrant of the movie as far as the emotional pull. And I like that Tanner does get roped into also being sympathetic to their plight to a certain extent, at the very least, where, like I said, much like Slide, he's seen these kids for just sort of the dumb, naive idiots that are in over their head and not necessarily dangerous criminals.
And Tanner here, being the seasoned, experienced, the captain that he is here, is the fact that he commands respect. I love that when he's pulled from the trial and he's putting on the hat. One is just really well shot, but it's the fact that you get a sense of the judge is like, you're excused from this trial. You have more important things to do. Get out of here, man. It's like, okay, this Tanner guy commands respect, and he's kind of seen as like we're choosing to trust you here. So in a sense, especially since we see the parentage of parenting is a theme, we see the parentage of well, at least we hear the parentage of Lou Jean. One could say, Kevin Tanner is like her non-biological father figure.
Yeah.
No, seriously, in a sense there, because, we have, like, with all the dad issues in this movie, your mom and dad fighting to keep baby Langston. It's not even just like Langston, it's like, baby Langston.
It literally throughout the whole movie, like, I don't think anyone just calls him Langston or the baby.
Yeah. Anyway, by the way, with that baby Langston, cute little baby, not just any cute little baby. That cute little baby is Zanuck's son, because they couldn't cast a kid that looked enough like him. They wanted okay, use my kid, and then look right. Very cute, playing a little dog and everything. Oh, ain't that cute? So the Foster family. Here's the thing. It's interesting. The Foster family is kind of framed as the antagonist, and that's the thing. So like they're completely discounting the birth parents. But again, when you look at things, I was like, yeah, these are heroes of the movie. They're kind of trash.
Okay, this is probably, I think you're touching on probably one of the biggest issues I have with the story, is that I definitely think the Foster family should have been given I think they should have been given more of the spotlight. Honestly, I feel like some of the focus could have been taken away from just like the cops observing the situation. And I feel like we're pulling a lot of perspectives from different officers and stuff that we could have given to this family. And I don't know, I just really like the idea of, this family doing the best they can to raise this kid. Kind of like the moral ambiguity of like, yeah, it's not their biological child, but you're right, Dragon. They are very much, I don't know, from everything that we saw in this movie, I think they're more fit to be parents than these two are. I mean, just based on their actions in this movie alone, we can at least attest that these people do not have great decision-making skills at the very least.
Yeah, it feels like we're glazing over the whole like why this kid's in foster care per se.
Exactly. Right. So it's
I know we're trying to keep the ambiguity alive with that, with the whole perspective shifting thing, and the fact that we are questioning it means it's working, I guess. But still, it's a fact like, okay, I get it. The cops are in pursuit of him. All right, can we maybe sacrifice just a few of these shots just to maybe when we cut?
Oh my God! Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you and I are on the same page with that, because that is very much. And Dragon, I mean, I know you were kind of like halfway joking, but you did sort of hit it on the nose when you said the first sign that this movie was going to be kind of a drag was, and it's a cool shot, but that one shot of like just the police, the long line of cop cars following them. I'm like, and I look at the runtime, I'm like, oh my God, is this what the next hour and 20 minutes of this movie is?
Here's the difference. Okay, let me give you two shots from this movie, okay? Honda line of cars, like you just described, in which it's going to be a long movie. In reality, not a long movie compared to Spielberg's later works, but still.
It's really not, but like I said, that happens like I just feel like the dominoes are almost put in place too quickly, and we're left with like, okay, this is going to be our status quo for quite a while. Like, we're too early into our story for this for the situation to be this calm.
Now,
I think.
on the flip side, okay, one side, conga line of cop cars. Flip side, side B, you have money, you have glorious money shots of like the sun is setting and we have like a sea of cop cars pursuing them.
Sure.
That looks good.
It does, yeah.
You know, like lit against the darkness. You know, they're on their way. Like the threat is pursuing them. It's an insurmountable. Like these guys don't stand up prayer. Look at all those cops.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, is again, like once we get into the last 20 minutes of the movie, the last act, I feel like that's where Spielberg really starts to ramp up, and some of those some of those early signs of him being the master storyteller that he is start to kind of come into focus.
Yeah,
but literally, Dragon, I feel like we have to arrive at Sugarland to get there.
Yeah, so again, just with the Foster family, it feels like every time we kind of check in with them, it's like, well, aren't you worried? But we're not really spending any time there. Oh, we're just answering the medias. But again, this is the thing with the Foster family. I'm getting like and I don't know if this is the right choice because I'm getting a hinky vibe from the Foster family, which again is Spielberg making me trying to root for our guys here, but still, it feels like I don't know if that's fair representation for them because
I definitely think it's not. And like I said, I think the movie would be all the more compelling if we were also on the Foster family side.
Because anyway, we have
there was a moral back and forth between the two.
So we have two moments with the Foster family that make me they're kind of portraying them in the negative, in which it's like, you know, like her completely discounting them and just kind of saying a little hoity-toity. And then we have the husband who was like, sir, I know I'm not going to be able to shoot him, but I want you to use my rifle to shoot him. But that's not villainous. I don't know.
Right. I mean, on some level, I kind of get it because it's just like, you know, the defending the family. But
still, I want you to shoot him with my gun.
Oh, God.
It's literally, I'm not even sugarcoating that. It's literally.
You know what? Yeah, now that you put it that way. Yeah, I mean, knowing what I know about the foster system, I've known some people who have been in the foster system who have like working relationships with their biological parents, and yeah, it would not be that hostile, Dragon. I almost guarantee it.
I'm just saying, it seems like a little like it hurts the fact we don't know like what exactly these original parents did.
I think that right there is like kind of like the missing ingredient for the storytelling. I think if there would have been like some really interesting sort of like, you know, inciting incident or something like that, then I'm just guessing it's the fact that both of them might have been in jail at the same time at some point.
Well, the idea is they both have been in the jail. I don't know if by the same time is the right point.
I'm guessing that I don't think the movie communicates this well enough, but I'm guessing that they were in at the same time, hence why the child was taken away.
Well, the implication is that now I don't know if there's, and you're right about this part of it, though. It's not saying if the child was born while she was in custody or not, but it is said that, you know, basically she was in jail and she got out, and then so was, and then he was put in. So they were very much. There's a very.
She was in for 8 months, and he was serving a year sentence.
Yeah, and the kid's 2 years old.
Okay. Oh, okay. So.
Yeah. So the point, it's like some. Well, at least I think the kid's 2. I'm pretty sure the kid's 2 years old. Regardless, you're right there. It's like here's the thing. I suspect what happened was it was young angsty Spielberg was thinking like, okay, I'm going to make it. I could get into reasons why we're taken away, but if I play it ambiguous, it can be anyone's divorce.
Oh my God!
It can be anyone's broken family. Like, yeah. If I leave it ambiguous and I don't say wise, I mean, I can kind of understand the logic behind the choice, but I don't think. I think it was more like a guy Aaron has daddy issues than it was like.
Sure.
So that's kind of what it feels like when you look back and was like, it's every family.
Oh my God, I love it.
Just Zanuck just looking back at his looking over his newspaper and he's like putting up like, oh God. All right. So. That's the answer. But here's the other thing we do have is like the media POV scene, which we see. This is very extremely well shot, but again, gives us bupkis at the end of the day. The media descends on the house, cost the Foster family, which is ironic given Bill Atherton's role in Die Hard's 1 and 2.
I honestly low-key hated this scene.
Well, you didn't like how it was shot?
It's shot well enough, but I'm just saying, like, I mean, no, don't get me wrong. The way it's shot is. You know, it is kind of like the POV thing. That is going to be a Spielberg signature. It's cool to see that. but I hate the scene as far as just the pacing and like Dragon. Are the foster parents in general the big thing you have a pacing problem with, or have
No,
we
no,
not?
that's one big sequence later. This is
Okay,
like a
okay.
scene. This is then like the whole like a whole string of like sequence. Like there's a certain like key, let's say roughly maybe like 10 to 15 chunk of time in the movie. It feels like
Well, I'm
we can.
curious. I'm curious what that is when we get to it. So,
Yeah. Anyway, so here's the thing. What I love, it is a missed opportunity though. Even what we do have here is the fact that like we're playing it from the kid's POV, which then kind of gives you the idea of like, okay, so we're not factoring the damage we're possibly doing to this 2-year-old kid with like all this like media attention about like any words for your real mommy and daddy.
and that's honestly that's kind of why I hate this scene is that I feel like it's overly cartoony as far as them actually like actively wanting to interview the literal baby.
Yeah, well, I think it's more just insensitivity there, which is like that. But again, it feels like
No, I
there's a
get
big.
that that's what they're going for. I get that that's the gag. I just think it's cartoonish.
I think later on it's more cartoonish when they're reviewing it like Mach 10
But,
driving
but
down.
that's fun though. That's a fun slapstick kind of cartoonish. This is just like normal people are not this dumb and insensitive cartoonish.
Well, I do love the irony that Bill Atherton is known for Die Hard for doing this exact thing that we kind of have in
That is fun. Yeah, that is
That's really funny to me. All right, so we do have a really sweet transition that gets us to that scene too. Remember, she goes into the porta potty, and then the door.
That was a good transition. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of which, okay, so something really fun in the movie is that we have these logical roadblocks, which I do love. These moments, like, yeah, I guess that would happen, where they run out of gas during this long drive, but they have a police chase, but they have a hostage though. So what happens then? So then we have like the big iconic shot of the movie, which is they're getting pushed by Captain Tanner. And he's getting a little enamored by Lou G in there. He's getting a little enamored by Goldie Hawn, like the rest of America. He's getting the Kurt Russell experience right now. Where he's in the car, he's looking at the rear view. We have the rear view mirror shot in which he's being all playful and stuff. And he sees these aren't bad people; they're just kind of stupid.
Yeah, exactly.
So then we have the porta potty thing. Now, to be fair, the porta potty thing, if you really think about it, is a really dumb idea, but it has a great payoff. It's a dumb premise though. She has to use the bathroom, so somehow we're gonna stop everything and make a hostage demand that we want a porta potty.
Yeah, I'm just saying at that point, just fucking go on the side of the road.
That's
dude.
my point. Yes, it feels like
like, are we really doing this?
I can't help but wonder: is that like a real life thing? Like that just feels really specific. Like, no, we're gonna go out of our way and bring like a big old porta potty.
I doubt that was a real life thing, Dragon. I doubt it.
I suspect, for the sake of the movie, the porta potty thing is created so we could have like Bill Atherton being clever, and this is a really good moment.
It is a good moment of him being clever. I'll agree with you on that. Yeah.
If I shoot some buckshot into this porta potty, ain't nothing bad's gonna happen, right? And the guy comes out like, that's great.
Yeah.
It's a clever moment there, and of course our great transition stuff. Okay, so
but yeah, I'm very much in agreement that it's. I mean, it is a weird little like. All right, come on now, guys. Come on, what are we doing?
So real quick before we get into the scene, the sequence I have a problem with. I just want to mention this with the old cop car shots, which are really good money shots, and like Spielberg with a budget. I just love that when I look at this, looking beyond angsty Spielberg, back to like little Sammy Fableman Spielberg. I love that he's it's like it's the young Spielberg with a budget, like it's the little boy with the toy train, shooting like all these little.
Yeah, totally.
He's shooting with hot.
Well, I mean, that's why I love the ending of Duel so much. The ending of Duel is basically like his childhood crashing the toy train, just in like on steroids.
And I love to a degree here. It feels like it's that little boy playing with like a whole like case of Hot Wheels that are. You get sure. Like, oh, isn't that cute? He was able to do it. So in real life, fun fact: in real life, 150 cop cars were chasing him.
Yep.
I just want to get that in there. Okay, so here's my problem spot in the movie. The RV section, everything involved.
Oh God! Oh man! Absolutely.
That's the time suck of the movie for me. That's where it's like,
I was so phased out. I really was. That's where I was getting annoyed. Yeah.
The RV section, it creates a lot of problems for me. It kind of slows the movie down. It stops me. It stops to make me question, like, wait a minute, we're stopping to get into a different vehicle, and somehow like, I can't even keep track of where the patrolman is. I think he's like in a trunk somewhere. I don't even know where
Agreed,
he's at.
agreed. Yeah.
It just opens up a lot of issues there, and basically the whole thing feels like an excuse to get the Wile E. Coyote joke. That's what it feels like, and it's not even that clever a joke. You know, it just feels like, okay, Wile E. Coyote, we're in kind of the desert setting, and again, it's kind of like a wild pursuit of some kind, so it's like a vague correlation. And then we have this whole thing of like, okay, so the idea, I think in real life, the Texans were very much, again, very, very gun-toady, very happy of like, hey, we don't want to let the bad guys get the win here. So I don't know if in real life there was like a militia of sorts that was aiding in the effort to stop them. The fact is, whether that's real or not, this thing just kind of does slow things down. It just feels like we need to have a shootout. Well, we need to have a shootout. I mean, do we though? I mean, this movie feels really like we need a shootout in it.
Like, it kind of feels like the whole point of this movie is to like do a police pursuit without a shootout.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing seems like a mundane. It's an OJ chase. It's like the
Right,
most
right.
mundane, slow speed chase you could have. But again, it's like there's tension in the car though. That's the difference. There's tension in the car between the three people in terms of like you're rooting for them, but one of these three characters in this trio knows this is not going to end well for these two stupid people. But I'm growing to like them. That's the drama. And yet it's like, hey, we have early militia shooting at them.
Yeah, and I mean, what you just said, I think the drama there is great and it's potent, and I wish that more of the movie actually focused exclusively on that.
Yeah. So that's the thing. I like that we're bonding with Slide. It's the strongest stuff of the film to me. I like seeing him soften, like him. It's got to be unanimous, and he raises his hand, and like the pictures.
Yeah.
I mean, early in the movie, I love the gag with the radio. Well, there are two radio bits in this movie. One, the initial bit where he's like, "Oh, please don't destroy the radio. They're gonna take that out of my pay. Don't destroy the radio."
Mm-hmm.
And then I think this is probably the bit form in the whole movie where he hears the girl's father on the radio berating her, and he asks her to turn it off because he doesn't want her have her feelings get hurt.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I thought, again, it's really nice.
Sure.
All right, let's see. So then, we talk about the celebrity hysteria that's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly feel like this movie's acting. Okay, I want to pose something to you because I feel like the celebrity hysteria is very much like one of the things in this movie that feels very kind of like, like it feels like it was kind of like tapping into something that was ahead of its time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and again, this is like the big sell movie, which is the big real life basis, and that the media did kind of heroize. Here's the thing. You're right, Tig. It's tapping into kind of the sad recurring pattern where it's going back to Bonnie and Clyde. Even Bonnie and Clyde again were like the original famous criminals who they took pictures and everything. They were the celebrity criminal, that and the John Dillinger type, if you will. And then we get to something like this when this happened, and where again it was like, hey, it's the slow speed chase couple that we all kind of root for because they had a relatable goal. Like they wanted their son back, but without factoring in any of the real life. Well, they're both in prison, right? And they didn't seem to really care about the kid that much until it was going to be taken away from. It's like you don't know what you have till it's gone, sort of thing.
So let me pose this to you. What if Spielberg were to do a remake of this?
I mean, I think knowing what he knows now, he'd be able to really make this thing. I think if he were
I think that'd be a really, really interesting proposition and thought experiment. Like, especially after The Fabelmans.
Now, here's a real question for you, Tiki. Can you recall a director remaking his own movie?
Oh, God. I'm sure Hitchcock remade a couple of his silent films, probably. I'm sure that happened. I don't know. Not off the top of my head, no. I mean, like Whiplash was expanded. The closest I can think of is like, there's been a lot of cases where a director will have a short film.
Yeah, that doesn't count though.
I know that doesn't count.
But I know what you're talking about though. Yeah, they have like a little proof of concept short film that which then gets expanded into a movie. But yeah, it's like Chronicle.
But I don't know. I think if anyone were to do it, I think Spielberg would be like a very I can't see any other director who has the history and the legacy behind him who would be more well fit to do something like that.
Yeah, the bearded guinea pig.
I don't know. I'm just saying, like, especially with the, the hyper fixation on social media and everything, I really think this story would resonate in the modern age. I really
Also,
think it would.
I mean, for me, I like Spielberg. I know a lot of people are always jumping down my throat for all the terminal up, but I like when Spielberg scaled down. I like it when he goes the simple route.
I mean, to be fair, I think this movie is much more Catch Me If You Can than it is The Terminal.
Well, no, I'm just saying in terms of like, well, fine, Catch Me If You Can, but Catch Me If You Can we go all over the place though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I never do go.
I see what you're saying.
I'm
Yeah.
just saying the fact it's like a stationary location, much like the terminal is, and
Uh
the fact it's again, it's not exactly we're not rescuing ET, you know.
huh.
Anyway,
Right.
so let's see. Anyway, yeah. So the point of the celebrity hysteria here is like, yeah, they're throwing literally like a parade for them when they go through town. They
I
get a
think
bunch
that's
of
probably
cars.
the best directed sequence in the whole film, I think.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a tricky sequence too.
It very much calls to mind War of the Worlds.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're right. A little bit War of the Worlds.
And that is my favorite fucking scene in War of the Worlds, and honestly, one of the most underrated Spielberg scenes, in my opinion.
Well, this is a much more happy version of that scene.
Yes, it is. It is. You're right. But it's
Yeah.
still like a sensory overload, though.
But then we have like some eerie bits too, like "It's your baby."
Uh huh.
It's the blind allegiances. Yeah, there's a little social commentary on like blind allegiances of like we're gonna back somebody without knowing anything about them.
Sure, sure, sure. Absolutely.
And we have like the interview on the road, which is kind of like the comedy.
Like I said, that bit feels straight out of like the Muppets or something. It really does.
It does. It does. Oh look, Elliot Gould. He's interviewing us while we're on the road.
Oh my god.
All right, so yeah, so let's talk about this is like kind of a haunting scene here in a good way, where you have like Cat and Tanner. We have this scene where basically it's like the last of the hostage demands, where they're about to get their goal, and Tanner knows like, well, they're gonna have a reception. They're building up like there have been every time we check in with a foster family, we don't really develop them at all. It's like, hey, cops are there,
Right,
cops are
right.
there,
Exactly.
cops are also over there. So Tanner knows like he's promised them. Yeah, we're not gonna shoot you or anything. Just go on down. Just go on down. And so again, and our patrolman knows what's gonna happen, and at least he's determined.
He
Like,
knows that he at the very least he knows that there is no way they are actually getting the kid.
which was the other thing too, with the fact that they're in Texas with the whole Sugarland of it all. Is the fact that Texas is known that at this time, at least, I assume still to this day, because let's be honest, it's Texas. Let's just say back then. It's the fact that Texas was very much like a we don't bargain state. It was very much like, hey,
Sure,
there
sure.
is
Yeah,
no
yeah.
way. Like, rarely does the hostage situation ever work out for the criminal. But secondly, it's like Texas, that's never gonna the hostage is never gonna work out for the criminal.
Mhm.
So it's the fact that our guy knows, like, yeah, and he's been predicting this for the whole movie, and even Atherton's been kind of like onto it. Like, again, he detects there's an error or something. Even in his last moments, he knows there's something up. So they have this moment there where it's like the last goodbye where he says, well, you have everything you need. Yep, I guess we do. And there's kind of a sadness in saying goodbye to this character. And Tanner knows when he hangs up that phone, it's probably the last he's going to hear from. They're probably going to get gunned down.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I like there's that dread of Clovis about about to get it. I
Yeah,
like that
Clovis, like he absolutely knows what's going on at a certain point. Like he gets it before she does.
I love that he gets out of the car and says, "This is like Spielberg direction. It's fine." It's in that last 20-minute segment here where
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's like it takes a while to get there, but once we're there, we're fully in it.
And it also feels a little Albuquerque-esque to a degree.
A little bit, yeah, yeah.
In those moments, it's like he's driving up and he sees he feels something's off. It's like Gus Fring in the bomb car. It's like there's no really good reason why he knows he shouldn't get into his car right now, but there's something in the air. You kind of detect it.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so the fact is, he's about to get the boy, and he gets out of the car, and I mean, I forget if he has the gun in his hand or not in that scene. I assume he does, but he gets out. But he says he's definitely not going to use it on the boy or anything. But he gets out of the car, and he's walking forward, and he kind of stops, and he realizes the setup. But here's where the Spielberg comes in. He's blocked by a tree. So they can't get a shot, and he's like right in between. It's like it's like a fight or flight moment almost, but he doesn't know it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh God, do I go forward? Do I go back? What do I do? But he doesn't think about anything because he doesn't know him. So he goes back and says, well, this is like angsty Spielberg in a really surprising way here, where it's like, well, I can't get a clean shot at least, or at least clean in a good way, and
Well,
basically
fuck
intimating.
it. It doesn't have to be clean. Fuck you, Dad. You're
No, but the immediacy
gonna
was
have a messy death.
just the fact that we, the audience member, are groomed and kind of prepared to expect, like, I can't get a clean shot. Maybe he's not going to get the shot, but he says that. But since him saying not a clean shot, that means I'll get a shot, but it's going to be like we shot a man in the back, which is kind of there's no honor in that. Essentially, is the idea. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't shoot him forward when we saw he had a gun. Like, he's walking away, so we shot him in the back. It's the immediacy in which that happens. In real life, just so you know, in real life, he did get shot, but he got shot in the neck and died instantly. So this is where the movie magic comes in here, where he's shot, he gets in the car and he drives off, and he lived by the wheel, died by the wheel. Yeah, so Clovis, after this whole journey, didn't even want to come along. He wasn't even supposed to be there today.
I mean, that is kind of the tragedy of it, right?
Yep, it's a Dante Hicks fate.
Oh my god, very much an original Dante Hicks fate.
Yeah, the original ending of Clerks, yeah. So again, Anxie Spielberg wearing his black hat, no beard. It's maybe a hint of eyeliner, but not full on eyeliner. I don't know. He's the car's gonna drive off. Chloe's gonna die, and he's gonna behind the wheels. Atherton, play dead, man. Just do it.
Oh my god.
We're gonna arrest her when it goes down the bear's gonna collapse around when the car somewhat crashes. Yeah. Yep, and then Slide bears witness. Slide bears witness to the bear turning over.
Oh my god.
The bear is their hope. Anyway, no, seriously though, so it's the fact that he's I think there's like the greatest tragedy of all is the fact that they gave him hope. Like that's the real question. What's crueler, the fact that Tanner gave him hope that they were going to achieve their goal and just take him out like right when it was within their grasp? Like what's
right, exactly, yeah.
Getting them on the way or getting them right before they're about to see him. So then we Tiki takes to the end beat that you love.
Oh yeah, I really do love this end beat where the two cop characters that we've been following throughout the movie finally reunite, on screen, like they've been talking to each other for the whole movie. And the gun is returned, and he's like, "Oh, what? I'm sorry. The line is, he took my gun, but I know he wasn't going to use it."
Yeah.
And goddamn, I love that line. I love that. That's kind of like the ending for me. Very much mirrors Duel as far as like how it cuts to credits immediately after a super tense moment, and the credits kind of act as sort of like an emotional sort of like, like, okay, now we can sort of breathe almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I really like that as a final line. You know me, Dragon. I'm a sucker for a good final line.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a way to go out, and also it ends on like kind of some Spielberg lighting for you with that silhouette.
Oh,
also,
for sure.
the fact that it plays throughout the credits, which are rather short back then.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the ending.
Okay. Oh, really quick, Dragon. I have one other. You see the teddy bear on the poster. I was wondering, do you think there's any possible way that teddy bear was inspiration for the pink teddy bear in Breaking Bad?
I mean, they do. I don't know. They do love their.
I know that's a stretch. I don't know. I just kind of like, especially when I saw the context of how it's used in the movie, where it's like, sort of like a symbol of childhood innocence in the midst of all this chaos. I don't know.
I mean, the bear is specific, but the bear is like very specific because the thing is they need like a plush animal of some kind to look like Walter White's sweater at the end of that season. That's the main thing. So
okay, fair.
That's the main thing. So it feels like what other whether it's either that or a rabbit, Tiki. So it feels more like
okay, that's fair.
It feels like let's go with a bear because he's a bear of a man. Like,
oh my god,
no, it's not.
All right. So final thoughts, Dragon. I mean, I don't think this is anywhere in the same league as Duel as far as just being like a super compelling, watchable movie. But it's definitely interesting. It's definitely got its good components to it. I feel like the quadrant of the four leads is a compelling dynamic. And like we established, the last 20 minutes does kind of end things off in a really compelling way. So it's definitely a solid like 7 out of 10 for sure, but it's sure not mind blowing like Duel was.
Yeah, I think this movie definitely is in the shadow of Duel, and it shows. But still, this is a. I mean, it's so odd. It feels almost reversed in terms of this feels like, okay, this is the guy cutting his teeth, and then Duel's what the guy does.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, only like, okay, well, we downgrade his budget, but look what he did with it, though.
Exactly.
Still, this does feel like this Spielberg cutting his teeth on things. Like, yeah, I think he's definitely feeling.
Like I said, that's why the Shyamalan thing I think is a good comparison, because that movie that I mentioned is just very much like not a Shyamalan style movie.
Yeah, but overall, I mean, this does feel like Spielberg cutting his teeth a little bit. But again, he's getting it out of the system. He's refining it, and we do have, again, we have some good performances. But we have some good performances. But again, we do have like it's a slow speed chase movie, so I think there are going to be some issues there in terms of pacing. And you know, Spielberg, it's so odd that he didn't really. His solution wasn't necessarily I'm going to make shorter, tighter movies, but instead it's like I'm going to make them longer. But I'm going to make them so compelling you're not going to care about the runtime. You know, I'm going to have 3 guys sit around a table and talk about scars, and it's not going to slow things to a crawl. It's going to be compelling, darn it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Won't even need a plush bear for that. You know, instead of a plush bear I'm going to give you, I'm going to give you a whole room full of plushies, but a brown Play-Doh looking creature made of chicken wire that's going to charm audiences for decades.
All right.
Look at the hat. Do you like the hat?
Okay, so big thanks to Richard's Victims for popping in here. Dragon, next time, it's 1941. What do you think of that?
Yes, the shame of Spielberg's catalog. We'll see
Dragon,
how shameful...
I am low-key stoked. I
wonder if I should share my anecdote now or wait till the podcast.
Wait for the podcast.
Oh, okay, I got a really funny anecdote, but we'll wait till then.
I have no idea. Like Dragon, I am hoping for a train wreck. Like that's the thing. If it's just boring, I'm going to be disappointed. I am hoping for a train wreck.
There's one infamous scene I do know from 1940, but it's rather infamous.
Oh man,
not infamous in like a negative way, but infamous in terms like, oh man, Spielberg really did that to himself.
Oh man, oh
it's
god,
like one of those things in terms like, wow, he was really feeling his oats on that one.
So yeah, that's going to be interesting. All right, well, stay tuned until next time when we round out this cinematic odyssey through one man's career in the next thrilling installment of Spielberg Month.
Angsty Spielberg.
Yeah, get shot in the back, Dad. Yeah.
Yeah.